Hey guys, welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Ted.
Nerdarchist Dave.
And today we got a GM 911 from Seb, and he's got a party that's running through a hardcore survivalist wilderness encounter. He's calling
it a wilderness grind. So
wilderness grind.
Not so much encounter too. It's more of a section of the campaign, right, if you will.
That's true. And he's looking to find out how can we make it harsh, make it a challenge for his players.
So before we get into that, jump down to the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy, the newsletter, where you're going to get weekly tips as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
All right. So in his question, he says that the rules are pretty light. Now, I pulled out the DMG, and starting on 108 of your trusty 5e DMG, it's got mapping a wilderness, moving on the map. The features, it's got monuments, locales, weather, survival,
some random stuff.
Foraging, food and water, becoming lost, and also wilderness navigation. So there's plenty of stuff, over 4 pages to actually work on that it starts you off with.
Right.
So
he also said he's also played with some hazards like quicksand, and he says random encounters is not a problem.
Right.
But he is interesting. He is interested in basically how can you just make it more interesting without just all being combat as well.
Well, if you want something that's a challenge and is not strictly combat, if you turn to page 254, you could have a wilderness chase, and here's D20 roll of complications that can happen, and you can either use this chart or come up with your own, because all right, well, what happens if they're being chased by something that is larger than they can handle, or they're fleeing from weather itself,
So, and then there's always more like so you can, if you don't want to lean on combat, you still can lean on social interaction and exploration aspects of the game. You can have them find interesting places in the wilderness that maybe they find a fairy ring, maybe they come across a mystical spring or something. You could do role-playing encounters with monsters out of the monster manual. You could be Sylvan or Fey in nature. They could come across a village of primitive humanoids, whether they are actually human, elf, dwarf, halfling, or something else. That are self-sustained and they live there, and it could be a kind of a tense situation when they first encounter them.
Maybe you don't have an outlander in the party, and literally foraging has pushed them to the brink, and here's a group of humanoids who know how to live off the land, but they're not trustworthy of strangers, so they've got to do something while they've got levels of exhaustion to prove their worth to the tribe,
right? Or convince them, or whatever mechanism you want to use, whether it is a trial, like Ted's saying, or
anything can be a trial. I mean,
just a social interaction of convincing them, and maybe they come up with a good argument, or or they have trinkets on them that they gift to the tribe, and they start developing these relationships and friendships from them. And I guess the other thing too, it depends too, like why why are they in the wilderness? Like what are they trying to do? Are they trying to get someplace? Are they looking for something? Are they lost? Like all of these are going to be factors that can play into what's going on. You could do something really weird, like they're in the middle of the plains or a forest and they find a boat, not a boat, but like a ship just there. You're like, well, how did that get there? You could definitely do something like that. There's no reason why they can't encounter some kind of stronghold, fort, or tower, anything, and it could just be exploration. It could be a chance for them to meet an interesting NPC, or it could
All of
be it could be all the above. It could be combat. It could be, well, this is just an adventure along the way. They find an abandoned tower, they go into it, and then from there stuff just happens. That's what happens when you're an adventurer. Stuff just happens.
Stuff always just happens.
And then the other thing too is like I forget the exact wording that Seb used was about he feels like he has to like track everything and keep the scarcity in the game because they're in a wilderness as opposed to somewhere else because there's no towns. Like, that's actually a personal choice in your game.
Right.
Like if that's something you want because that's the situation, you can, or you could just easily be like, yep, the archers know how to like forage for the right sticks that they make into arrows, and they're good enough at foraging to find enough to get by, and you could totally not even worry about it if you wanted to.
Yeah, and you can go to both extremes. I've played games where as an archer, I would literally retrieve my arrowheads, and the shafts might be messed up, but I would just be able to make new shafts. So like I never really had to worry about recording my arrows. It was just accepted that that's what I did. And we've also played games where it's like, all right, you need to consider what you're eating. How many rations do you have daily? You're ticking off, meal, 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 meal. All right, well now I'm out of rations. What do we do? So it's if in a wilderness game, if everybody is into the survivalist aspect and you set your watch and you've got everyone's tensions high, everyone's sitting on their edge of the seats because they don't know when the next meal is coming from, they don't know when the major predator in this area that's more powerful than the party is going to catch their scent. So like all they've got to do is survive the 10-day trek across this woods to get to the back to civilized land. All right, great. That's an awesome concept for a series of adventures or a single session. But if nobody's really into that, and you guys are all like, all right, well, I gotta make die rolls to see if we eat today. This is so dull. Not really the adventurer hero thing that I wanted to play. Well, then just scrap that whole aspect of it and move on to the part that everybody wants to enjoy.
Yeah, it's just a matter of play style, whatever you like in your game. I was going to actually say too, if you're doing like that, the more survivalist game, like a devastating encounter might be the wild animal that sneaks into your camp and runs off with a pack of food, or something like that. But so I'm sure in the comments below you're gonna get tons of suggestions for this one. How to spruce up this the wilderness adventure that's extended or protracted. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can support us on Patreon. Even $1 a month will go a long way to help us out.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.